Good
evening. Nope.
Good-
Okay. Nope. That's it. Podcast is going.
But this is a weak start, okay? This is
It's
not
a
acceptable.
strong start.
This is absolutely unacceptable. Good.
It is the strongest start. Nope, not letting you do it. We're done. We're going.
Good morning, Sam. I am gonna say it.
What's going on, Mallory?
Well, it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and it's another episode of our Star Wars cast. That's right. We're giving you all the latest Star Wars news, predictions, who's going to be in the next one, who's going to die, what color lightsaber are they going to have. You know, we're here and we're ready to discuss every Star Wars fact for you Star Warsians.
What's up, Star Wars gang? We're here talking about, is Disney too woke for Star Wars?
Now, you might have noticed that there's not a lot of dark-skinned main characters in Andor, but you may also
And we are both
notice
thrilled about that.
There's a
Although,
lot-
are there also not enough aliens? Let's talk about it.
a lot of them in the background, a lot of dark-skinned people in the background, so we're like, hey, even that's too much. Come on now. That's not true at all. We
No, not at all.
are here to talk about whatever we want because this is the free zone. And just to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, I think we're both a little bit tired today. I'll discuss why I'm tired.
Why do
a
you
little
like
bit
to
later.
instantly let people know, like, here's the vulnerabilities, here's the chinks in the armor? Like, yeah, no, I'm sick. I've been sick all week. You rode a bike or something, and so it's gonna be a struggle.
There's more layers to mine, but I think the thing is like I have learned in life to use vulnerability as my armor.
I see.
So I just
Very Mon
kind
Mothma of you.
I kind of just emptively hurl out anything that someone might say about me, so that no one else. I've beaten everyone to the punch, and I've maybe twisted it for some sort of comedy, or just been open and honest with people, and that's just kind of how I operate, you know. So now I'm being even more vulnerable about just how I work and my kind of psychology and what I'm doing.
This is your path. You're gonna walk down it. Let's see where this is going.
Sam, what you been watching?
What? Hey guys, this podcast is actually gonna suck. Anyway, Sam, take it away. Okay. Well, all
Well,
right.
we were just saying that we're tired, but we're trying really hard, so everyone should give us a little bit more credit than they normally do.
Or we could just make a good show. Like we don't have to. Whatever. I don't know. I've been sick all week. This is the downtrodden cast. I've watched one thing the entire week that wasn't Andor related. It's been a lot of Andor. Been a lot of rewatching season 2 of Andor. But I did manage to go watch an old movie in theaters, which I like to do when they're available. It's a movie I've never seen before. It is, I think, 49 years old, I think. That's not 20, that's 49. Almost 50. I was trying to do the math. It's really easy math, but I messed it up. 75. Dog Day Afternoon. Have you ever heard of this movie?
Never in my life.
I am mostly the same way. It is an Al Pacino movie of the Dunkin' Donuts fame. Do you know what I'm talking about? Whatever. Al Pacino, he's the Godfather. He's also, for our entire lifetimes, been phoning it in for like 20 years. He's in Dunkin' Donuts commercials mostly these days, and
Is there a
he gets
joke about like the Dunkachino and the Cappuccino and the Al Pacino? Is there a
yes,
joke
Dunkachino is an ad campaign featuring Al Pacino. So don't meet your heroes is what I'm getting at, because basically like for our entire lives he's been kind of phoning it in and being just like, this guy was a great actor at some point, so we paid him $10 million to like scream in this movie and be kind of shitty at acting. However, he used to be really good, He used to be the Godfather and a bunch of other things. And that's that's my main takeaway from this movie is like, damn, Al Pacino used to be able to act. I think you would like it. I may pitch it at some point, maybe soon. The premise is wild. Especially for 1975. Al Pacino plays a bisexual man who is robbing a bank so that his partner can get gender reassignment surgery in 1975.
That's crazy.
It doesn't. It definitely doesn't handle things in a 2025 way. But it is like wildly progressive for 50 years ago, and it's also kind of a black comedy, but kind of a drama. It's basically like, what if a bank robber was like the worst bank robber ever, and in the first 5 minutes of the movie was like immediately caught and was in like a standoff, and then the rest of the movie happens. And it kind of just takes you through like a 14-hour standoff with the police, with this guy like holding hostages in the bank and his partner, who's very sad. And it's just a very interesting drama. I was kind of blown away by it. And that's the only thing I've watched the entire week and that's what people came here to see is conversations about Dog Day Afternoon. So
that's crazy.
That's what I've got.
If you liked Andor, would you like Dog Day Afternoon?
I think so, because I think they're just, both good, but I don't know.
All right, you heard it here first. Andorites, get to Dog Day Afternoon, get to this bank heist. Tell me about this trans person getting gender reassignment surgery from a bank heist. Let us know what it's about. That's crazy as heck, and I love that, and I really want to watch that now. That sounds phenomenal.
I believe you.
Yeah, all I could think when you said the worst bank robbery ever is I immediately like flashed back to like a D&D session of ours.
Oh God,
that I can't remember. I think you participated in.
I was on that one. Yeah. It went about as well.
Yeah. That's like when I thought about a bank heist where everyone just gets caught immediately and there's zero emphasis put on stealth. Yeah.
It's like
sounds good.
Out the gate, you're like, this guy has not done the work. Like he's trying to knock out the security cameras like with like a can of like spray paint, and he's too short to like reach the cameras. So he's like grabbing a chair and dragging it over and then standing on it, and then the spray can's not really working, and it's just like, oh man, it's not happening. I don't know what to tell you.
That's heartbreaking.
There's a lot of like his gun strap getting stuck on things, and it's not like it's a serious movie. Like it's not like a Buster Keaton like sketch or something.
Yeah,
but it is very funny. It's funny in like a black comedy kind of way.
Dang, that's crazy.
It's a good time. Maybe I'll make you watch it someday.
Yeah, I'm here for our like problematic / mistreated queens of the past. Like I'm here for these like older depictions of like transness and like how it's conceptualized. Like that sounds like my cup of tea. Like I'm definitely here for that.
There's a lot to get into in that I think we could have a good conversation about.
There's some meat on that bone.
There is some meat on that bone.
Amazing. Anyway, what have I been watching this week?
Well, thank you for asking, Mallory. What have you been watching this week?
Listen, we're all there.
Not everything has to be call and response. All right.
Well, I don't feel like I can just. I felt like I could have
just go like, yeah, anyway, I've been watching this. It doesn't need to. You don't need me to give you permission.
I felt like I couldn't. I felt like I could.
Teacher. I also watched something this week.
I'm so like good student brained,
We're 21 episodes into this podcast. What are you doing?
The podcast can drink now.
That's true.
Hey, bottoms up.
When in doubt,
it's apple juice.
Carrot Top-esque skits. What if you had like you had a wine glass that was like the size of your head. It's like, all right.
I mean, people might think that because I held it pretty close to the camera.
That's true.
Yeah, I'll drink some apple juice later. But yeah, this week I got back in, so I haven't really talked about it on the podcast very much, I don't think, but I am a Dropout subscriber. I am a big fan of Dropout content. You actually sent me a Dropout short this week, which kind of reminded me of it, but yeah, I pay the fee every month. That's like my one subscription service that I'm really committed to. And I don't always watch stuff every month because sometimes, you like to let it build up and then binge through it. I don't know. They're cooking lately. Recently, they did a D&D campaign with WWE stars that they brought in. And
Xavier Woods, I assume, who's always floating around these.
Believe so. Yeah, I think I remember that name. Yeah, they did it was Titan Takedown, so it's all Olympian and Greek god themed or whatever, and they're fighting Big Z, who's Zeus or whatever.
Solid theming.
Very solid theming. So yeah, I've just been getting back into that, and then they had an announcement trailer for Cloudward Ho, which is going to be their new steampunk themed series, which is going to be the next one of their long form series that they do with the classic cast. Because
I have a question.
In general, yes,
teacher. Cloudward Ho, is that heave ho or tally ho, or is it more
unfortunately unfortunately dissimilar to me, it is heave ho.
So this is how a professional D&D show would name their thing, not a Mallory run D&D show.
Yeah, unlike me, they didn't lean on porn site aesthetics when they were trying to name their D&D show.
For those who don't know, Mallory runs a D&D campaign called Da Freak Zone, and that's been a 4-year joke at this point, 5-year, longer.
And it gets funnier every time. And the thing about it is originally it was going to be called Freaking It So Right. Or
we talked her down from that. Da Freak Zone is the best version we could get to.
And the logo, I literally had it the Pornhub logo was orange freak and then white black zone, and everyone was cool, man. I think the way that people got me off of that is by not laughing. I think if people had laughed, then they wouldn't have been able to stop me, but they were able to keep the chuckles in. But yeah, it was pretty sick.
Do you have the ability to discern between, polite laughter, pity laughter, and regular laughter? Just asking questions here, no particular reason.
I think that, you have to love the things that you create yourself. You have to be satisfied yourself with them. You're ultimately the audience that matters the most. And I think that if I had named our D&D boss Freaking It So Right, I would I don't know. I feel I would just, the amount of joy that I would have in my own life would be multiplied a lot. But we're not here. We keep bringing up our little D&D project that's on semi-hiatus type thing. We need to be focused on talking about other people's things that they're creating. We don't want to get full of ourselves. Okay, we don't want to be braggadocious on this podcast. I'm humble bragging, name dropping the Freak Zone. Where anyway, save you.
I don't know why I'm being so mean to you. I made you watch Star Wars again, but get on with it.
I'm particularly.
We're now gonna Andor our best to talk about Star Wars. What is it? What's the pun?
You're really. I wasn't even gonna do the pun. I just feel like I didn't even talk about Dimension 20. But I mean, there's not much
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
say.
Yeah, no,
I guess.
they were Z targeting Z Boss, Jesus. What's going on?
They're gonna make a new season, so I just
Oh,
wanted
I see.
people to know. I just wanted, like, if you're a Dimension 20 fan and you're watching and you subscribe to Dropout, I just wanted people to know I'm excited about Cloud Ruho. Hey, and that's
Hey.
all. And
And that's
also
like heave ho, not like ho ho.
yes, and also they played Madison Square Garden. Did you know this? This was insane.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they did like a live show at Madison Square Garden, and they just now uploaded like the VOD of it to like Dropout, so you could like watch. Amazing. They had like fire effects or whatever, and like the shimmers and like lightning sparkles or whatever, and it was really funny because they did the fire when they first came in. And then afterwards, like when they're fighting like a big dragon or whatever, like he starts like pressing the button for like more fire to come out, and the crowd is like cheering, and the players are just like, "Stop doing that! You have to stop!" It's really funny. They're just like, he's like, if you do a 3, 2, 1, it's okay, but like you cannot surprise me with that much fire behind me. It's really good. It's a good show. Everyone should subscribe to Dropout if you like good narratives.
Anyway,
I know that you don't want to endure me speaking for any longer, so let's move
I was
on
waiting for it.
to the news.
To the news? What does that mean?
It's like Philip DeFranco, or what's that guy? Who do
I
you
know,
got?
yeah, Phil DeFranco. I know who you're talking about.
Okay. No, you're fans of I know him not that much.
I don't know if I'd call myself a Phil DeFranco fan, but watched him 15 years ago, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. We can cut this from the podcast if it's embarrassing for you.
No,
But
that's fine.
when you were younger, you talked about him to me, and you were like, "This guy's awesome," and I was like,
Mallory,
"Really?"
we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Are you
we've
still
known
watching like Sipsco Yogscast Let's Plays? Like, let's talk about this. All right.
I'll check in on a Sip stream every now and
You'll
again.
check in
just
on
to
a
check
Sip
it.
stream.
I just want to see. He feels like one of my older relatives. I just want to like check in and see how he's doing. You know.
Okay, here, better example. Did you catch the latest Tobuscus episode? Wow, you know.
I didn't watch Tobuscus. That's different.
You didn't watch Tobuscus ever?
I watched Nugget and a Biscuit. Okay.
We're talking about the news, and otherwise known as Andor.
Mother, would you like
I'll
some...
get there.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Okay, Andor. All right. I am making a change.org petition for Mon
Okay.
Mothma to get her foot off of my neck. This is the best character in history of anything. I love Mon Mothma. The glasses are coming off to reveal that I love Mon Mothma so much. She's the best character of all time. She's amazing. Anyway, now we can talk about other stuff that happens in Mandalore. I just have to get that off my chest. And if you think that we're done talking about Mon Mothma, we're gonna keep spiraling back. All roads lead to Mon Mother, is what we are dubbing her, because she is the mother of all Star Wars. Anyway,
Elaborate. Why do you like Mon Mothma so much, other than going, she is mother?
it's
Because I feel like last
to...
episode we didn't even really explain it, but it was just like, Mon Mothma, she's great.
Just get that bubbly Mon Mothma.
Dramatic sip.
It's hard to like articulate fully in like words that make sense, because there's a level of it that is like aesthetic. And my argument, and this is like a broader argument that I will make on this podcast, is that aesthetics matter, and they're often dismissed, and they do matter. And her grace and poise and the serves that she gives in the face of just the worst shit ever happening to her all the time, just everything going wrong, everything going so bad. She is like, Okay, this is how I can put this in maybe terms that like anyone can understand. Do you know that like meme that people will be like thought daughter or gay son?
I do.
Okay, so obviously I would love to have a thought daughter and a gay son, but I like my version of that is like trad wife daughter or incel son. Like that's my version. And
Okay.
Mom Mothma is living out my nightmare of just
She's
like
got thought husband and trad wife daughter.
yes, thought husband of absolutely just
I like
man
how
her
her
husband.
piece of shit husband is like one of the last shots of the show. It's like
Yes.
one last little like indignation, like, oh yeah, he remarried, and he remarried, or he's at least dating or sleeping with or drinking with. Did you recognize the woman in the cab?
Was it the okay? I thought it was the like mother of
It's the mother-in-law. Yeah, it
the
is.
mother-in-law. Yeah, the wife
That's-
of the like dealer guy.
Yes, that's like another layer of just like despicable on top of everything else.
Crazy.
What a
Like
guy.
so much stuff happens to Mom Mothma, and I think the first 3 episodes there's like this like we keep going between we go to Planet of the Divas is what I dubbed this, which is where like all the people are arguing over. This is okay. This is the
Cassian's
difference
on like
between
the Lord of the Flies like subplot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's Diva of the Evening and then there's Planet of Divas. Diva of the Evening is like you're an icon, you're giving an iconic serve. You're not necessarily like acting spoiled or something. The Planet of the Divas, they are acting like how you would associate the traditional meaning of the word diva, where they are just
I
like
see. Thank you
you
for the
killed my
clarification.
brother, like you like all this stuff is like going back and forth, and like Cassian's just like in the mud and like getting chased by a big pig, and then like we go back and there's just like this like 3 episode like the 3-day wedding of just this like Bridgerton like social intrigue, and there's all the like the husband's being like off with your new boyfriend or whatever, and then like which cheaters always projecting, always the first one to accuse of cheating is the one preparing to or already doing the cheating. Guarantee they were already like starting to flirt and hook up around that wedding. Guarantee that man was not. That's like where his eyes were set. And then like yeah, just the betrayal by that guy.
Tay is the banker.
Yes. Tayzonde.
Her childhood friend. Not
Chocolate
Tayzonde, just Tay.
Sorry. No.
There are no black
much,
people in the show, as you pointed out.
No black people in the show, unfortunately. Yeah, like him like just crashing out. Like him going from like season 1 where he's like being like, I'm a little bit more radical than you to Mom Mothma, like to just like crashing out, getting divorced, getting drunk at like this wedding of like where it's like not even his kids or anything like that. And then just
well, it's like
being
immediately as soon as there's like a little bit of pressure, it's like,
yeah.
well, I didn't know we were going to be breaking the law in this rebellion funding plot. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's okay, Tay.
Crazy stuff. And she goes through so much, and like I don't know. I was
I'm just
like,
gonna give you a word.
gagged. Yeah.
Acting. She's really good at it.
Acting.
Her actress is named Genevieve, I believe, and Tony Gilroy, showrunner for this show, called her. This is a quote that I've like had stuck in my head, and probably because he says it like every interview. He called her a Stradivarian, meaning that like she's just an instrument that can play like so many different sounds, and so it's like, all right, Mon Mothma, you are barely holding it together, but you have to act really excited right now, but also like your face is like a pond, and there are just like ripples that are like building off of it while you're trying to like keep still, and it's just like incredible in terms of like character acting. Like this lady is doing the work. There's so many like
yeah,
like micro pauses of like, that's great, you know. Like it's for the entire show.
So crazy. No, she absolutely brings it with every scene. I think the looks are so good, like just the costume design, the like weird kind of like kimono fusion with like these like robes and like the many looks that she has over these like days or whatever, and there's just like such a like I don't know, it creates such a like interesting vibe. So like something that is interesting that I've thought about, this is like talk about ContraPoints every episode, but like there's this concept that she talks about, which is the idea of like abandoned malls and stuff kind of like being this like new aesthetic that is like kind of gothic in a way, where like the original gothic kind of aesthetics started to take on that like vampire imagery because and like that parasitic like creepy abandoned imagery because they were this time of like all this like glorious like architecture or whatever. Like it wasn't old or weird or counterculture at the time, but it became that because it was like wealth and opulence of a bygone era.
And now
And the
that's like
idea of,
Forever
like-
21. Like what? Like
Yeah, like that was her. Like if you've ever heard of like liminal spaces and stuff, that's like a slightly different but kind of convergent topic of like, you know, the idea of like weird abandoned malls and like parking lots and stuff like that, like creating a similar like feeling within people. And
are
like,
you saying that like this Coruscant or like Chandrian like opulence is very much like it feels very prequel trilogy to me?
yeah,
Like the
It's-
sets and
yeah.
the splendor, but we're living in like authoritarianism, empire, brutalist at the same time.
it creates this like weird sense that it's like Star Wars has almost like built on itself so much that it's able to like channel that like same vibe of like this like gothic almost like haunting aesthetic by echoing these like prequel architectural slash like clothing aesthetics that like we're so accustomed to through like years and years and years of this like franchise, to where
I think you're putting a finger on something that's like really interesting, which is
she is
she
like
looks like a prequel character.
yeah, and she's like there's this like feeling of like she's just this like dying queen like wasting away on like internally like withering away, like watching as like this like culture society or whatever that she's been brought up is just like crumbling before her in like slow motion or whatever. And it's like it's beautiful like that, and that's what I'm saying about like aesthetics. Like there's something aesthetically so profound about like her in that gold dress when she's like just kind of like there's just some pained looks that she gives like after talking to Luthen, and she's like I don't know what you're talking about. He's like like lucky you. And she's like
that line is so mean because
oh
of course she does, of course she knows what he's implying, but
Yes.
he won't even let her like pretend to feign ignorance. It's like, all right, let's be real here. I'm about to murder your childhood friend. It's like, okay, well,
yeah, and it's like I think in that moment like there's the like, you know, too cool for the nerds, too nerdy for the cool kids type of moment where she's too rebellious for her family or any of her society, but she's not rebel enough to like be in with Luthen. It's like she is just alone in this world. And the night before, it is so heartbreaking. Her and her daughters, like obviously the thing where like
it's not the
walking
night
around,
before.
like,
It's she's about to go get
there's-
married. Are you talking about
well,
like
that's
the
what
dinner?
I'm saying. I'm talking about the night before where she and her like groom to be, like the two kid children.
Oh, they have a
like,
little
their
spat,
first fight.
right?
Yeah, and she comforts her, and it's like the first time in this whole show, like every scene, like her daughter has been like, "I hate you, Mama, you suck," and then like it's the first time she like the daughter breaks and shows some vulnerability, and like Mon's able to like comfort her, and you're like forming some sort of connection. And I think even as an audience, you kind of get your hopes up, like, is the daughter going to be redeemed in some way? Like, what is, you know, because it's kind of like, we can make inferences about why the daughter is the way she is, but like ultimately we don't really get that backstory. And like I think I kind of went into this season being like, maybe we'll learn a little bit more about like what might have happened in the daughter's childhood that made her like set her on this path or something. But yeah,
well, like these
instead,
characters are like so
yeah.
full that you can really like you can connect the dots for yourself, even though this daughter character is in like less than 10 scenes in the whole show.
Right.
It's like, all right, her dad is this like floozy non-traditionalist. Like both of her parents are very anti-Chandrian like traditions, but the alternative from this character's perspective has got to be like, well, I don't really want to end up like my dad either and be this like drunk like socialite like that. So she turns to like these old ways of her culture, which are the reasons that her parents are so like effed up to begin with. It's perfect. And then of course you got to assume that like Mon Mothma is really distracted by the fact that like the entire galaxy is being taken over by an evil empire that she's a senator for. So presumably she's not spending a lot of time with her daughter, and so there's like a rift there as well. And by the time you get to that speech, the second speech or interaction they have when she's about to really like seal the deal and get married, and she describes like trying to like heal this generational trauma of like, my mother didn't want me to get into like childhood marriage either, but she just drunk her way through it, and now I'm sitting here giving you the option that I never had. And the line kills me where it's like, I would rather you have been drunk. It's like, oh my God, that's just horrible. It's just too late. And it's like, that's another thing that Mon Mothma sacrifices in order to just move money around. Like she may not have to morally sacrifice as much as other characters in terms of like, she never has to pull the trigger herself. She does have to like allow or like put up with the fact that her friend is going to be murdered, which is like a big jump for her in that first 3 episode arc.
Yeah.
But she loses so much personally, right? And I think that's just like it's very like Greek in terms of the tragedy of it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely brutal, and just like that scene like hits so insanely hard of like her trying so hard to like salvage anything. And like I think you're right, like it's like she's been distracted and busy her whole life. And like I also like, my interpretation was also like, I imagine like her daughter's like friends at school and like the type of kids she's like socializing with all probably talk shit about her mom and how lame she is.
Well, her mother is pretending to be this lame like neoliberal where she just makes speeches and gets nothing done, right?
Yeah, she's like kind of this, you know, middle of the road like Nancy Pelosi, like, you know, just not like accomplishing anything. And like no doubt like the kids at school are like making fun of her. And like, I mean, from what I remember from season 1, like my interpretation was that the daughter was like a little closer to her dad and was maybe on the road to becoming like similar to him. And like,
I think there's a
sort
possibility
of,
of that for sure. Like her dad is like the one that's like, you can do whatever, right?
Yeah, and seemed
Good
like
cop,
spoiled
bad
her
cop.
maybe a little bit more. Yeah,
Right.
So yeah, like in that thing she would go with her dad. But yeah, and it's, I think like what is so tragic is in that scene, her waist is just is snatched. It's just so, she just looks so good. She looks so beautiful, and she's dying. And the rave, we didn't even talk about the rave. Okay, the rave.
We can talk about the rave. The letting go of like the visual of just being like, all right, I have committed to my friend getting probably murdered. And before the rave even happens, like where you see and we say the rave, but like the wedding dance, you see Vel and not Cyril, Cinta. You see that like there's a little mini heartbreak in this like assassination of this guy who is not a bad guy. He's clearly not a like
crashing out.
He's crashing out, but he's
Steve.
not like He's not like an Imperial. Like, he is just a
Yeah.
dude who is not going to be able to hang with these diehard rebels. But I like how they threw in a little bit of extra heartbreak, where it's like these two women who are in love and haven't seen each other in years. It's like, oh yeah, I'm here on a job, and it has to be me who is going to kill your cousin's like good childhood friend, and probably a guy that you like and respect. Anyway, we can't say any of these things verbally because he's right here, and I'm about to kill him. But like, we can have a really dramatic look where things remain unsaid, which is just like the template for the entire show. Everyone talks like 1,000 words with like one like pointed look. But then the rave.
No, I mean, exactly. And I will say that broadly, and like similarly to like we don't get the backstory on the daughter and why she is the way she is. It's like, yeah, the show is sparing with what it does show us, and I think like to greatly its benefit. The rave is crazy. I think there's a line. I think it is Tay, like the childhood friend, who says it to her about like something about like her letting go and like actually like feeling it or something like that. And it's crazy that like that's the guy that it feels like that's almost the advice that she just like leans into at the end. And like of all the people like in the room, and I mean I guess it also echoes back to like the husband complaining about her being like no fun or whatever, but like her just like feeling it and losing it in the dance or whatever. And like that song, I've just been listening to it because like I think there's something beautiful about yes, there's something
Space
beautiful
Miami.
about how a TV show or a movie or something can infuse a song with like so much extra meaning or whatever just from like the way you're experiencing it. But it just gives such this vibe of like decay, techno decay, it's just like it's just going so negative, and like she's just like fuck it, like it's well,
and
crazy.
even in the dancing in that scene, like
Yeah.
they're following some sort of like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like Chandrian, like the planets ritual, but like there's a rhythm to it, and there's like it's being constantly interrupted by them having to do like the whoa part, and so it's like you're crashing out, wah, all right, okay, we're back into it, we're crashing out, wah, like just even that detail of being like she can't even let loose in this moment because she's drinking and she's like crashing out, but she can't say anything and she has no one to confide into. Her only like ally in the room is murdering her childhood friend at the moment, and is also watching her. And there's very clearly like Luthen could just kill Mon Mothma if he wanted to as well. Like there's that tension there, and it's just perfect. It's so we spent a lot of time on the first 3 episodes of Andor and have not said the name Cassian or Andor at all, but like it's a strong start.
Yeah, I think that goes to show you what a good show this is. If we hadn't made it clear, we like this show.
Andor good.
Yeah. So
let's talk about Space
we can
France.
Move on.
All right.
If we have to.
we do at some point. You said something on our last Andor episode that became very, very true in this season, which is that it's like, this has kind of got some like Les Miserables vibes. Am I Les Miserables vibes? And then we went to Space France, and can you hear the people sing Blaster Fire? No, not anymore. I think Les Miserables, I think I would have liked that book more if like a 7'5" robot came in and like threw some characters against a brick wall, and it was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, K2SO, good addition. I was glad. I wasn't sure like if he would like alter how much he might alter the tone, but like you needed him towards the end. Like you needed some
evil
levity
K2SO
when
is like horrifying.
Cards.
Like
right,
the robots, just the K2 robots, I guess, are on their own, just like, oh man, that's really scary. That's a little bit scarier than just getting shot, is getting like pummeled to death.
Yeah, the way he just throws someone and they're dead is crazy. Like
Yes.
there's not a single person he throws where they get up afterwards. Like
Like
they're
characters
finished.
that we've been following for like 4 episodes, like the daughter of the main politician on Gorman. Like, I'm like, oh, is she gonna get up? No, she's not gonna get up from that. That's tough. But yeah, what did you think
Yeah.
about the middle chunk of the show, which is very spider focused, very Gorman focused?
Yes, a web of intrigue. I
It is a web of intrigue.
liked it. It was highlighting another one of my favorite guys, Cyril Karn. Uh, what
Can
an
we talk
arc.
about Cyril, Mallory? I want to talk about Cyril. Can we talk about Cyril? Let's talk about Cyril.
Let's get into Cyril. I mean, yeah, no, so crazy. Like, I think the way that like everything just sits on like the precipice of like tipping this way or that way, and like every factor of everything, like the way that every like rebel could switch or turn in or get killed, the way that every revolution could tip this way or that way, the way that like all these conversations matter, all these individual people's like motivations matter.
This
It's so
entire
crazy.
series is like, if things didn't go this way in this one moment, then everything is lost or everything is gained. Like, so much of the fact that they even know who Luthen is comes down to like a 20-second decision in the first 3 episodes of season 1, where it's like, hey, should we grab that cube just so that they don't like track us with it? It's like, oh, it'll be fine, we don't have enough time. But that's the cube that then like Deidre uses to track down this like web of funding that Luthen has done. And it's like, oh, I think there's this guy named Axis, we're gonna call him Axis, who's like at the center of all this. And then that cascades into like a 5-year search for this guy that takes over her life and ruins her life and ruins Cyril's life. And yeah, anyway, Cyril, what a what
Yeah.
a what a bummer. Tough beat.
Crazy guy. I thought it was like, I don't know, there was like so many levels where it kind of plays with your expectations of like when he first is like talking to these revolutionaries. I was like, there's no way they're gonna have an arc where Cyril like flips good. But then it's revealed that he's like doing it as a double agent, and then they're kind of like, he's kind of like, oh, they're spitting. What is this? Like, to like a couple things
Well,
that they're
it's
saying.
not even that like he's swayed by them. It's the fact that he wasn't let into the full plan. Like, it almost is like a pride thing, where it's like, obviously
sure.
he is.
Yeah,
he
that
seems
too.
horrified, and he does seem to like the Gormans, and he's horrified that like these people are actually being like, he thinks he's trying to stop outside rebels on this planet. He doesn't know that he's being set up to essentially create a rebel force that will then be destroyed, be used as justification to destroy them. But I think there's at least like 50, probably like 65% of the reason he's so upset towards the end of his arc is because he's just not let in on the plan, and he wants to be the mover and the shaker, right? And so like the fact that he never knows what they're doing on Gorman the entire time, and he feels so betrayed with Dedra and whatnot. But yeah, no, I love the introduction of him on the planet and him talking to his mother, and the Gorman resistance listening in on that conversation and being like, Jesus, what a lady. It's perfect, because you really do think he's making this flip, but it's like, no, it's more complicated than that. There's more layers to it.
Yeah, there's definitely a level where I'm like, there's no way. And I was glad, like, I would have probably been a little bit disappointed, honestly, if he had like fully flipped. But yeah, and I think it does, yeah, just like manifest in this way. I think like the two scenes, like the scene with like him choking Dedra, whoo, like, whoa, okay.
Got a little tough there. A lot of choking metaphors in this whole show with like the collars and whatnot, and the looming shadow of the Empire. But yeah, like that was pretty.
He goes for it.
It was pretty scary.
Yeah, and like I think probably we could talk more of like getting to Dedra, but like that followed with like him just like seeing all of the stuff happening around him, realizing what he's caused, and like just seeing Cassian Andor and being like, because this is his like fated rival.
Well, he's like
And
seconds away from like picking up a blaster and being with the Gorm, right? Like it's like he might be able to flip,
yeah,
and then it doesn't. But then he sees Cassian, and it's like, no, this is he can't get he can't get out of his own way.
and it's so crazy. It's such a like, I think it does like kind of come because like I was remembering the scene of him in like the original where he like, or season 1, where he like tries to give that like motivational inspiring speech to his like crew when they're going on their first mission or whatever, and it's so like just meandering and quiet and like just there's no like pizzazz to it, and like he just hasn't got it, and his mom is like, he's a fragile little boy. Oh, sorry, he doesn't like when I call him fragile. And it's like he is just so fragile and weak and like delicate.
The best gif of this season though is him like flopping down on the bed and like just staring at the camera and just be like like
while these like strong boss ladies like fight for control of his soul or whatever.
Like in the next room. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And I think like when he does flip and he's like, I mean, like there's just like this like this like kind of like letting out like all this pent up like frustration, and like it's like he's finally like, that feels like the full circle for him. I feel like is that he's finally just kind of like letting it out,
he can't make the final leap in like logic. Like it's like his life has been ruined in his mind by Cassian because Cassian defeated him on Ferrix. The Empire like disgraced him and put him in a shitty job and sent him back to sent him packing, and then he had to work his way up to then be betrayed by the Empire. The Empire's the big piece of that, but to him it all starts with Cassian, and it's like he can't fully make the connection that like it's the Empire that's the problem, not necessarily this one guy you were trying to stop. In another world, he's the guy leading the rebellion on Gorm, but he isn't. He's too in his. The fate said you guys are gonna meet just a little too soon for it to be for you to have your hero moment, and so instead he goes out just horribly. And the line is devastating, where it's like, who are you? Like, why are you like, who's this guy who's like trying to beat me to death in this like cafe?
And he can't answer because he has no identity. He's
exactly
just a cog. Which, speaking of cogs, we got to talk about Dedra as well, please, because oh my god, amazing.
I think Dedra might be my favorite character.
She's so cool. There's an interview I saw with the actress where she talked about how her mother said you need to smile more because you have just this resting scowl like firmly on her face, and they're being like, and look at you now, you're making you made a career off of that scowl, like look at it.
There's a great little moment where she's getting ready for the date with Cyril and the mother, and she's like trying on her uniforms, and she just goes like,
she just tries to smile, and it looks so uncomfortable, so unnatural. It's really, really funny. Yeah, she is crazy. I think what really hit me with her was like at the end they're playing again on the speaker like the speech that like little Karl Marx wrote about like communism on the radio about like freedom being like a natural thing, and it's like I think it shows her right as they're saying the line about like control is like unnatural and like has to constantly fight in order to like keep it, and I feel like that just summarizes her character so well, in that like she's so like unfazed by everything, is like trying so hard, like fighting with all her things. And then there's like these two scenes with like there's the one with Karn, and then there's the other with like Krennic. I mean, maybe there's more that are like this, but these are the ones that really stuck out, where she's like in the room with this like man who's basically decided to be like violent towards her in some sort of way.
Right.
And like she completely loses all composure and is just like a ball of anxiety, and like her face is like twitching, and it's like
My favorite version of that is like
Yeah.
after the massacre on Gorm, or like as it's still going on, she's waiting for like
Yeah.
her next phone call, and it's like not coming, and she's like she keeps tugging at her collar and like the edges of her military like frock or whatever. I don't know, it's not a frock, a suit jacket.
Yeah.
And there's a physicality aspect to it of like the actual like clothing she's wearing, the imperial garb is like constricting her and choking her, and it is unnatural and it's stiff and it's like she's coming apart, obviously knowing that like Cyril just tried to kill her and then also is now running out into the crowd, and so she's in turn getting him killed. It's great.
Her ordering the shot on him is such a crazy scene. Like, oh my god. And yeah, and then that happened. Like I think that is either whatever you described is like either right before or right after that happens. But it's like after Cyril runs out into the crowd and she
has to give the go ahead.
That he's out there.
Yeah,
and
she has to give a go ahead to
go
start
ahead,
the
yeah.
massacre. Yeah.
Yes, it's like so crazy, and like yeah, her ending up in like the jail cell or whatever, just like doubled over, is like Jesus. Like
That is the shot of the finale
yeah.
that like sits with me, is like her in this
Yeah.
prison. I think the show does a great job of showing how there is no good outcome siding with the Empire. Like Cyril and Deidre and the ISB head and Krennic, like even the people who are like either morally do agree with the Empire and are like we're gung-ho about it. Like I think you learn in this season that Deidre has been like raised since basically like a 3-year-old to be an Imperial. Like her parents were arrested for being rebels. I'm sure that was questionable, but who cares? Just accept as fact and truth. Any character that sides with the Empire is burned by like siding with them, and the Empire is constantly misusing its like best soldiers because of all the infighting and all of the sorts of people that like that system attracts. Like everyone at the ISB for the most part is like a busybody, trying to climb the corporate ladder. There's so much infighting. They're so busy like looking at each other, like looking over their shoulders at like perceived slights and like I have jurisdiction here and you have jurisdiction here, that they completely miss a spy in their ranks because they're too busy being like, well, Deidre is climbing too fast. We should put a stop to that. Like I think
Yeah.
what is his name? Partagaz, her boss, like one of the first in like the second scene with him, like after Deidre makes a good point about how to catch Axis in the first season, like the first piece of advice he gives to her is like, watch your back. This is a system that doesn't reward like good work. It rewards being in the system. And so it's gonna, and like you said with the Nemec, not Nemec, what is his name? Yeah, Nemec's like manifesto. It's like control is unnatural. This is an unnatural system that doesn't reward its strongest or its most diehard soldiers. Like Cyril in the first season being like a goody two shoes from an Imperial perspective gets him burned. Deidre being like the most invested and largely not making any mistakes. Like the mistake she makes, of course, is like trying to catch Axis on her own. But there's also the idea that like she could have caught him earlier and actually caught him if they had just given her the information they were supposed to give her. But instead they tried to hide it because they were trying to hide their own fuck up where they tortured the guy to death. Just because like it's all like it's the entire system is broken. And yeah, it burns Deidre in a way that is just tragic.
Yeah, it's like insane the speed in which it just like starts cannibalizing and like chewing up like these different officers, like as things start to like break bad, like you know, like as you said, like basically none of them like make it out all right. Like Krennic gets out like on top because he's the guy on top of like everyone we've seen in the show. But I will say, and I wasn't sure when to bring this up, but I did watch Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Well, yeah, he's
after
dying
this.
in 2 days. Like, what does it
Yeah,
matter?
and
then
like,
Moff Tarkin's dying a day after that. Like, it doesn't.
Moff Tarkin does the exact same thing to him, like in all three Rogue One. Is just like he's like, now the Death Star's mine, and like all this stuff, and then like Moff Tarkin is famous, and I feel like people remember who he is. Like, I mean, yeah, he's a good actor, but I feel like people remember him as like the guy getting choked by Darth Vader in Star Wars 4.
He's not the guy who gets choked. He's
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
the guy who gets choked is like a random Imperial officer, but he's kind of like he's kind of where the buck stops with that trend, because like Darth Vader treats him like with respect, so, as far as Darth Vader can, being a weird metal monster.
Yeah.
But he's just blown up on the Death Star. So like,
Yeah.
there's no one left to replace these people after the Empire like chews them up and spits them out, right? Like the guy who goes to arrest Partagaz, who has like a very they all have distinct faces in this entire
Yes.
show. The guy who like lets him kill himself, he's not a good replacement for Partagaz. Like Partagaz is shown to be like very efficient at his job and like at controlling this like spy network or what have you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way that the guy who replaces him is going to be as good at his job as that guy, but the Empire's like zero tolerance for failure policy is going to like wipe them out and remove them of all of their best resources. And of course, that's a good thing, to be clear, but Empire bad.
Yeah, I mean,
but the show does a good
it's
job
like,
of putting you in the characters' perspectives, where it's like, Deidre's right. Like, all of season 1 is like, if you just listen to Deidre, the rebellion fails, but you don't because your system is unnatural and you're, like you said, cannibalizing on each other.
Yeah, and it's like, I like the point you're making about the replacements as well, because, like, I mean, Deidre, she's basically get filled by, like, her understudy, who I did not talk about, I think, in the first, like, season of Andor. Love him. He's just this little gay twink, and I don't want to cast aspersions, but there is, like, especially in the first season, he just has these, like, lines that are, like, he's, like, going through the clip where he's like, this is disgusting. They're so disorganized. And, like...
Is that the same guy who
Yeah.
takes over for her, essentially? Like, I know they mentioned him
Yeah.
getting promoted. It's the same guy who
Yes,
then
yes.
gets murdered in the hallway with K2SO later.
I can't remember. I think so. But, yeah, there's... Yeah, I just remember season 1 where, like, this is disgusting. And Deidre's just, like, staring, like, blank face, like, yeah, drag them. like... They had like this like sweet kind of thing, and then like he gets promoted, and all of a sudden they're like at each other's throats, and like you get the vibe that he's trying to do a good job. Like, you know, he comes off as like one of the less detestable ISB agents, even though everything
Well, and
all they're
Dedra
doing is awful.
is actually like empowering this dude to like she's bringing someone along with her as she rises in the ranks, and that burns her, right? Because then they do become more like there's more animosity between the two of them.
Yeah, no, it's so crazy, and it's like he just also does a really good job of like there's like the shakiness and like unsureness I feel like that he brings, that like you just get the feel of like too big for or not big enough to fill his shoes type of thing. Like I don't know, it's really crazy. I wanted to talk about did you say his name Partagaz?
Partagaz,
the kind of like
he's the head of the ISB. He's a great character actor. He's a great character in Game of Thrones,
really?
Which is where I know him from. Yeah, he plays this, like, not a priest. There's these characters that are essentially like the intellectuals of Game of Thrones, and he plays like a disgraced one of them. Who they're kind of like the doctors and the like advisors to people who are more important, not because they're smarter, but because of their bloodline or what have you. But he's like a disgraced one of those who then becomes like this weird necromancer guy, and he's very much like I'm in the background doing evil things kind of character.
Yeah, I love him in this though. I feel like there's this thing about him, like just kind of like tracking him where like he honestly gave me this like kind of like caring, like almost like warm, like energy
Feeling to
towards Dedra
Deidre.
at
Yeah.
times. Yeah, or like even just like it's like okay, this guy kind of gets people and is like managing these ISB agents where like he's seen yelling like time to time and like obviously can like whip out the strictness that's required of him, but there is this just kind of like padding and trying to like keep things in order and that kind of stuff and like
He seems aware of what we're talking about, of like
mm-hmm,
the inefficiencies of having a system where everyone's too afraid to talk or they're too busy worrying
mm-hmm.
about their like credit, and he seems to want to cut through that by like rising Dedra up.
Yeah, and like also just like having a little bit more tolerance for like the mistake. Like he's mean about it, but he will also just be like, yeah, just do this, do this, do this. Like as opposed to like, I'll put you in an imperial jail cell, which is what like a leader like
I like
Krennic
him more
is
than
like
Krennic,
a
yeah.
lot quicker. Like
I
to
like
do,
that they
you
have a
know?
little moment though. Sorry to get off
Yeah.
track. Where I like that there's
No,
like
no, no, for sure.
every character has history, and you can get it in like a few lines, and it just adds so much depth to it all. Like the fact that Krennic has this little like "I can't protect you, friend" moment. Does he already know that Partagaz is going to be arrested? Does he already know that Partagaz is going to kill himself? Like, there's so many
Mm,
things you can read into that. What? How do they have this history? Did they grow up together? Did they rise through the ranks together? Why did one become a Moff or close to a Moff, and one became like the FBI director? It's
yeah.
fascinating. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, but yeah, I think just like getting to his like suicide scene, like when he hears that like speech about like freedom ringing out, it's like I feel just this thing of it's so tragic because you just feel this like expression on his face of like this is resonating with something I know to be true about like this is resonating with my humanity because there are people
Hmm.
who like there are people
I've been
who will
reading
hear those
interpretations about
words.
it, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
I guess my take is like I feel like there are people who will hear those words and just be like, yeah, whatever, and there are people who maybe need to have like more life experiences before they can get to those words. There are maybe people who will never have those words resonate with them. I just kind of had this feeling where like he was kind of trying to be like he just felt a little bit more human than a lot of the Empire cogs and trying to like manage this group of people and like realizing like what a destructive thing he's been like doing this entire time. It's like too much for him. Like he was human ultimately, I think, which is what like ends up being the motivation behind him like killing himself.
Well,
But
to
yeah, I
me, it's
mean,
like it leaves it ambiguous. But it's like, is he
of
listening to
course,
this
yeah.
manifesto and his thought is, "Oh no, this is gonna be what destroys the empire that I've dedicated my life to serving," or is it like, "Oh man, this guy's right. I'm inhuman. I'm doing something unnatural." There's a lot of talk about, yeah, like you said, control. These systems of control are not natural. They will like be like taken over by like a tide of rebellion. In that moment, I think
Mm-hmm.
you can read it either way. Like, I I have failed, and I'm upset that my life's work will not succeed. Like, I interpret it as if he's interpreting the Nimic manifesto as like, oh man, they're gonna win, or oh man, I'm a piece of shit. Like, I have dedicated my life to something horrible, and it is unnatural. The My favorite little detail of that, when he's talking to the guy who's clearly gonna like replace him, who gives him the ability to collect his thoughts. Uh, he points out that the manifesto writer speaker, who we know is Nemec, is anonymous. Like, it's spreading throughout the galaxy and it has no author, and that is so against everything we've seen in this like imperial hierarchy where it's all about credit. It's my mission. I did this. I connected the dots. I'm I'm the important one. I want the credit. I want the promotions. Whereas like with Nemec, it's about the message. It's about the like goals. It strips away all of that. What am I willing to give up? Everything, my life. Like, and Nemec does. He's crushed pretty much immediately. But his ideas live on because it's the ideas that are important, not the individual glory. And so it's like, of course the Empire is going to get defeated. Like, how can you fight that? How can you fight that dedication?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know.
Andor rules.
I mean, absolutely lots to be interpreted. I feel like who are we, because we're circling, we're just talking about the stuff we want to talk about, which is great. Who are we glossing over? Because
we haven't talked about Andor at all, for one. And
who needs him?
And we haven't talked about Bix. And Andor and Bix's story are kind of like, they don't have an arc dedicated to either of them really, but they're just peppered throughout the entire season, which is a bold choice. I wonder how Diego Luna feels being like, all right, the show's called Andor.
You get your own show.
2 episodes from the end of the show, I'm not even in this episode. It's about the assistant to Luthen. Like, I'm curious how that feels. But yeah, we haven't talked about Luthen and best character.
Luthen and Kreia. Oh my god. Kreia, yeah.
And we haven't talked about Andor and Bix. We can maybe save Andor for the end and Bix for the end. Let's talk about Kreia and Luthen.
Pushing Andor down the stream. Kreia. Girl. Luthen. Girl. Oh my god. Oh. I mean, all I could do is make sounds. You know.
I will say this show is really good at like micro narratives throughout the season, like little background stuff. I love how Luthen is just finally coming apart as the season progresses. Like he's caring less and less and less about putting on the airs and being like a pretend Coruscant artisan. I like that, like when he talks to Mon Mothma when he's like prepping her to leave the Senate. I like how he's not even wearing his wig. Like there's just like this feeling that he's like, I'm not making it out of this alive, and so who gives a shit at this point? And they're getting sloppier as it goes on, as the rebellion grows and like the heat is on them. And I just think that's where I want to start this conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the cracks showing. I think that's one thing that like, because a lot of times when I watch shows and stuff like this, like I feel like people will write characters in a way where like they tend to be like a vessel for a certain set of ideas or a certain like trait or a certain extreme or something like that, and it's like having different characters interact like lets you see how these different extremes interact. And like you can definitely make arguments for like what kind of ideal like each character represents in Andor, but like to me I feel like you reach a certain point where like it was kind of reminding me of What Happens Next and stuff that I like in What Happens Next. What Happens Next is a really good webcomic that we talked about, which is like where the characters are doing so many good and bad things and things that are understandable and not understandable for XYZ reasons. And it just starts to like swirl and swirl and swirl to this point of like moral complexity where you're like, I don't know, like I cannot look at anyone and be like, yeah, you're good, you're bad. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing you can do. And like I think Luthen, like him slipping and stuff is so crazy because he of the characters seemed like the most consistently like I am about like doing whatever it takes, using the tools of my enemy, cold calculating, like if you gotta die, you gotta die.
Completely like self-sacrificial too. Like there's a ton of ego here, but also like there's no self-preservation. Like when it comes time, if it's the best play for me to like burn myself, I will.
Mm-hmm. And like when he like there's a scene that happens like mid-season where he's like criticizing Clea for like bugging the guy's like vase or whatever, the
father-in-law,
the guy who's the father-in-law of getting back to Mon Mothma is
Mon Mothma.
So
watch.
It's like get your foot off my neck. So it's I think like when they are having that argument, it struck me as such a thing of like, it's like this is not about like ideals or principles or the rules of what we should and shouldn't be doing. It's like, yeah, maybe it wasn't the best idea to bug. Was it the most necessary thing to bug? No. Is it reasonable that we could have expected this guy to search everything for bugs?
No.
You know, like not really.
Yeah, that argument feels petty which feels very like
Yes.
off kilter for what we've seen of Luthen up until that point.
Yeah, and it's like Clea being like the centered one, you're like, damn bitch, like you are like really doing so well. But like, yeah, like seeing stuff like that, you're like, man, this guy is like losing his edge, and just like how like his lack of kind of humanity in a lot of ways, like he's like, I've sacrificed my like, you know, humanity and like my
His morals.
what do you say, like your morals, yeah, in order to like accomplish this like goal or whatever.
He is the ends
but,
justify
like,
the means, like personified.
Yes. And it starts burning him in all these different ways, to where you're like, hey, like being this like ends justify the means guys is getting in the way of your ends at a certain point, like
Right.
you know, like turning
there's
Mom Mothma's little helper against not against her,
against
but, you know
her,
what I mean? Like,
but against each other. Yeah, like he creates like infighting by being so Machiavellian and so distrusting of even his allies that like he does.
yes.
I love that conversation he has with Clea where he's like, I probably shouldn't have told her that. Now she's upset with me, and that might ultimately be what causes her to get caught. And it's like I like the show's boldness to be like, we have this Machiavellian character who is super smart but is not perfect. The most boring character you can write, i.e. like an Emperor Palpatine, is like, I can see the future, I'm 10 steps ahead. How did you possibly predict this? The writer just wrote, he's smart, and then they left it at that. We see like Luthen fail. We see Luthen make mistakes and burn bridges, and like by the end of the show, like Vel doesn't want to work with him. Yavin entirely does. They're all like, Luthen, that guy fucking sucks. And his reputation is so poisoned by the end of the show that they almost don't pursue the Death Star plans and like the Death Star rumor, and they don't believe Clea. Like it's fascinating.
Yeah, like the getting the Mon Mothma's like bodyguard in on the like thing is such a like example of that, where it's like is it a good idea to roll this guy in on your operation? Does he seem like a pretty stand-up guy? Sure. Like having another guy that is able to have communication with you and be able to protect Mon Mothma, great. Not telling Mon about it is such a like misreading of the humanity of the situation in a way, almost of like he's like just so accustomed to doing things this way, it feels like, that he's just like bumping into these things that would be obvious probably to him of like 5 years ago or something. I feel like almost where it's like, of course she's gonna be mad about that, even, and it's like unnecessary in a way, like
well, and there's a great little like that has a interesting through line way later in the show, and in the final episode where Andor is arguing with Bail Organa and like the lame rebels. I like the Rebel Council is always like, you're the worst. Like I can't I hate them in Rogue One. It's one of the reasons I don't like Rogue One or have some troubles with it, because they're like comically inept. But Andor makes the point like one of the last things he did was like get her out, and there's a little, if you read into that, it's like, hey, Bail, your team was compromised. Luthen's wasn't. If we had gone with your plan, like, she would be in jail right now or dead.
right.
Like, give Luthen a little bit of respect. Like, he made choices that were inhumane, but he ultimately, like, got the result he wanted. But there's also a little bit of him making some personal choices as well, where, like, he chooses to have Clea, instead of running away when he can, he goes back to the store to destroy the radio instead of sending Clea. Tactically, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But she's his daughter.
Yeah.
And he's the stepdad that stepped up, you know? Like it,
God, please make an edit. Please have the mug of him with the dad that stepped up.
The
like
murderous Imperial who stepped up.
Him and then Marva from like the Andor's
from
like
Ferrex,
mom,
yeah.
like all of them wearing the dad that stepped up shirt. Like there's a lot of that in this show. and then Forrest Whitaker as well, because he was
Sal
like
Guerrero
Jyn
with
Erso's-
Will. Yeah.
or
Dude.
Will as well.
Let's
Oh,
huff
that
some.
scene.
Let's huff some like lockpick juice. It's very interesting. That scene kind of goes nowhere, but it's a very interesting scene.
That and the Mon Mothma dance scene are my two favorite scenes, because I think
Really?
they both hit like the same point. Basically, like they're kind of the same scene, just in like different contexts and ways, and like where it's just like
Crashing
feel
out.
it.
Yeah.
Like it's not even. It's just like I love the way that he's like, because I was kind of like iffy on his portrayal to an extent. Also, because it kind of evokes a thing that I've like heard referred to and also seen in media, where it's like, oh, the non-white
The
rebel,
black extremist
like,
kind of like
they're
stereotype.
too, yeah, like they're too extreme and they're rebelling in the wrong way, and the white rebels are rebelling in the right way, type of thing, or whatever.
I
It's
feel
like,
that way in Rogue One, especially because he's like an idiot and he's like, I'm just gonna die. I'm gonna stand on this
Yeah.
cliff and die. That's more valuable than going with you. Again, Rogue One, I have some troubles with it. I
interesting
think
movie.
he's so much more charismatic in Andor.
Yes.
And I like
season one,
him.
he's not that bad either. But like
No,
season
yeah, I like
two,
him in
he's
season
like,
one as well.
yeah, but like that scene in season two, I feel like he just words things in such a beautiful way, where he's like, he kind of also like undoes that like the black extremist thing, or like the non-white
sensitive
extremist
soul,
stereotype thing
you
that
know?
happens, where he's kind of like, he's like, hey, like you're upset about being in like Luthen's army or my army or the Rebel Alliance, like, fucking man, are you mad at like the Empire? Did they take something for you? Then just like, let's ride. You're like, what are we like splitting hairs for?
I
Like,
love when he says to Will, like, "You think I'm crazy." It's
Mm-hmm.
what's actually crazy is to live under the Imperial rule. Like, forget that. What's crazy is to not be like me. Like, I'm the sane one in an insane world, and it's like,
yeah.
now let's huff this ride on and fucking take out the Empire. It's like, yeah.
So cool. That scene, like, I can feel myself tearing up thinking about it. Like, it's just, I didn't even mention, not okay. we're trying so desperately. We're
It's a dense show.
hyperspeeding full speed to try and get out of the orbit of Mon Mothma, and she keeps sucking us back in. And I'll keep this brief, and we'll stay away. But I did cry, not at any point during the episode of like episode 3, but like after finishing episode 3, it's like all these emotions were like swirling around, and then like they finally just like released, of like, wow, it just hit me. Just to make notes, I like to bring up every time I cried when I watch something, just to like have a tracker. That one got me. What are we on? Are we on Clea?
You want to talk a little bit about
we talked
Luthen dying and the hospital and all that?
God, them taking over the hospital too. Like, come on. The
Empire
hospital
sucks.
manager.
These guys are so
The
lame.
hospital manager being like, "Hey, this isn't just like an office building that you're commandeering. You're like, there are like patients that you're just like clearing out."
Doesn't matter.
And they're like, the Empire's in danger.
Dude, they suck. They're so lame.
Yeah.
They're unnatural, and they're creating rebels everywhere. And that's like, I know we keep coming back to the Nemec like manifesto, but like, I like how you see that throughout the show. I like how the show opens with that, like in season 2. Andor's conversation with that like TIE enforcer inspector is like, yeah, I mean, like, obviously I'm gonna switch sides because these people are crazy and evil, but also like, I'm just a human, and it's inhumane to be working for these people. And then that character's gone, and we don't see anything with her ever again. But she's just like, you can feel that there's like hundreds of this person out there, and they're growing more and more, and it's like, oh, it's perfect. Like, is that hospital director now like a rebel sympathizer? Probably. Like, wouldn't you be?
Probably a little bit. Yeah, would definitely move you on the scales of like, yeah, these like thugs just like forced my entire hospital to just cease being a hospital for like
the
a
illusion
day.
of the Empire being like law and order is just shattered
Yeah.
anytime anyone interacts with them at all. Like,
Yeah. Like, especially with like the, police and the super police and the secret police and that
Right.
kind of faction. Like, such a crazy thing. Clea's like whole like the backstory where Luthen's like raising her to like. Okay, there's so many scenes in it, but like where they're sitting at like this like coffee thing and they're like detonating a bomb to blow up a bridge
in Naboo,
and
yeah.
like, and he's like, you need to look out at this beautiful landscape and experience it, and she's like, I don't want to, and he's like, no, like you need to feel it, like you can't not like you need to feel how beautiful it is and like the weight of like what we're actually doing, like don't
Right. We're
don't
about to
avoid
like
it.
this is peaceful. It's not perfect. It's obviously horrible, but like
Yeah,
like being under Imperial control or whatever, but like this is a life you could have
we're
of
ruining
like
these
relative
people's
ease.
day.
Yeah, like look around this cafe. Like you could come to cafes and be rich, and like that's it. Or we can blow up this bridge.
Yeah, and like you need to like understand the cost of like what it is we're doing as we
And the
move
minute
forward.
that like she makes the
Losing
choice,
sight of
he's
that
then
is-
giving
yeah.
her orders. Like, no, look here. He's giving her the spy orders of like this is how you have to interact now. Like play the role. Like she's locked in at that point after she makes the choice. And it's like, no, look at me. Now look over. Like the humanity part's over. Now we're gonna be these robots. We're gonna be these actors.
Yeah.
There's the line earlier in the flashbacks of like, "Am I your daughter now?" When it's convenient. It's like, oh no, it's so good.
And this scene, oh my god, this scene where they first meet where Luthen is just being like, make it stop, like in the
Yeah.
like thing, and like revealing. I guess he used to be like part of some sort of military operation,
So,
like Imperial.
The show kind
thing.
of plays with time a little bit. It's like the only thing that they do a lot of work to make this show fit in the canon for the most part. Like for instance, Mon Mothma apparently gave a different speech in Rebels, and they have like a throwaway line where they're like, "Yeah, Gold Squadron's going to bring her in. Like Andor, we can't really give you the credit because we're going to try and make this like a propaganda thing." They do that to like account for this animated kids show that did like just said like, oh, what if we have Mon Mothma give a speech on this ship here? So now she gives two speeches. She gives a speech in the Empire and she gives a speech aboard the ship with the rebel team.
Yeah. I could listen to her talk all day.
Of course. But the only thing that they really kind of fudge is how long the Empire is in control, because they're only in control for the life of Luke Skywalker of like 19 years. But
true.
they cheat it.
That's so weird.
They
to
cheat.
think
They
about.
cheat it. Yeah, no. Like
Yeah.
Dedra is in an Imperial like adoption center from like 3 years old onward, and she's like a woman in her 30s. Clea, her family's wiped out by the Empire, but she's a woman in her 30s. Like they tweak it, but also
Yeah.
who cares? Because the drama is like so exciting that it's like it doesn't really matter.
Bit of a point or a knock against the Star
Sure.
Wars prequels. I don't want to step into this discourse at all, but it kind of seems like if they didn't make it so that the Empire started existing on the same
day
day
Luke's
that
born,
Luke and Leia
yeah.
were born, it kind of would fit a little bit more to what people's imaginations of the Empire were when they watched the original trilogy. But I don't want to
Yeah.
dismiss the Star Wars prequels in any way or get into any drama.
I would say the show does a good job of like that. It's a really, I write about this in the script I'm working on right now, but like it's a really interesting time period in Star Wars, and it's also a period that almost is not touched because it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, how does an empire rise this quickly and be strong enough to take over the galaxy in like 2 decades, but brittle enough to fall in like 3 years? And I think the show does a good job of selling that idea by being it like it's essentially Rome. Like Rome expanded and then died because it was too big, that it couldn't like there were pockets of rebellion everywhere because it couldn't control everything from the central location, from Coruscant in this case. Anywho, we're an hour and a half in. Andor. He's a guy.
All right. Cassian Andor.
Cassian Andor. Who are you?
Who is this guy? I mean,
He's
you
fine.
should start about.
He's kind of the least interesting. But
he's
they do a
okay. It's okay. You go.
Andor the show, right, is the story of like guy who's not even in the fight to dude who's radicalized to dude who becomes a spy, or he's like guy, mercenary, radicalized prisoner, spy, actual rebel leader, rebel like inspirer, dead guy, but rebel martyr. And it's very Diego Luna, I think, gives a really good performance in the sense that like the script doesn't have Andor giving a lot of speeches, but you see just like on his face and on his mannerisms like how he changes throughout the season and then the 2 seasons together. Like he becomes more confident, he becomes more of like the guy giving the orders. Like you feel him like sliding out from Luthen's thumb throughout the season. There's a very Yavin Andor and like guy sitting in like the stash house on Coruscant Andor are like so different from each other. But at the end of the day, the best thing about Andor is that you know where his story's going to end, and it ties back into Luthen. Where like I like that Luthen, despite being like the best character and really interesting and exciting, there's some dramatic irony there where like he almost throws away his best asset because he's so paranoid and in his own head. Like he's going to kill Andor in the first season, and so much of the first season is about, are we going to murder Andor or not? And so there's some dramatic irony there because we know what Rogue One is. Like, you're going to kill your best shot at like victory by being too pragmatic, by being too, I don't know, paranoid.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think he's very interesting. I like that. I kind of like it in like season 1 and like the beginning of season 2 in some parts where he's consistently kind of portrayed in this way where he's just this guy that kind of like shows up and like he's the only one that you know is gonna live. Like you know that he's gonna live, and he's kind of got this like
he's Forrest Gumping his way through like the worst events in the
yeah.
Empire. Yeah,
like he's a Forrest Gump or like I don't know why Sherlock Holmes is coming to mind, but like you know, because he's like a character that's like in these all these different like short stories, I guess. Like he's
at the center of like or on the periphery
ways.
of all these major events, and he just keeps surviving.
And there's also this sense of like there's this like everymanness to him, but also this like the traits like he is like just the best guy ever at being super perceptive and like thinking of stuff that everyone else doesn't think of, and he's like kind of like smarter and like sees through the bullshit or something like that.
He's very practical, but not in the
yes.
like Han Solo, oh man, you're so cool way. Like when he's on the island of misfit toys, or like he's on Lord of the Flies island.
We need a like running list of how many names we've like named this.
They suck. They're the worst.
Yeah.
He's like handcuffed and he's kind of screwed. He's just like, he has nothing to do but wait around. I like that he's drinking rainwater that's like filtering into the ship, and it's like, it's not a very sexy action. It's not a very heroic or exciting thing to be doing, but it's so practical and it's so like intelligent to be like, all right, I'm going to bide my time. I might as well be not dehydrated so that maybe I can get my upper hand later. You know, when he's rescuing Mon Mothma and he shoots her driver, like he's like, what's his name? It's like Clark. Hey, Clark, we got her.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny beat, but it's also like the way it's shot is like there's no music and the blaster fires really loud, and Mon Mothma immediately is like, oh my god, like horrified.
You killed someone, which it is kind of funny for her to say.
It's kind of
that.
funny.
Yeah.
But it's also like
not kind of really funny, honestly. Like
if Han Solo did it, there'd be like a little like John Williams stinger, and it'd be like, "Ba-now." It's like, dude, Han Solo's so cool. Andor, it's like, damn, Andor, you're really about this shit. That was like really intense, and I think that that's like a very interesting way to set him up as just like he looks like Han Solo. He's got the bomber jacket. He's firing at people, and he's not a Jedi, and he's human dude in a very like crazy wacky story, but at the same time he's, I don't know, he's just more, he's even more, he takes that idea even further to be like almost like what, I don't know, what's the most efficient way I can survive this. He's like, I don't know, I'm at a loss for words. He's cool. I like him.
He is cool. I think it was also interesting. Like I finished watching and then just watched Rogue One immediately afterwards because it's like, it's so weird now that we have this like TV show that ends right as Rogue One starts, and then Rogue One ends right as Episode 4 starts. It's like there's like this like continuous stream that we can watch all the way up to like Episode 4, and I'm sure you could like Star Wars Rebels your way even further back, but like the like it was interesting watching him again in that movie with that kind of context where like they try to give him that bit of edge, and like he pulls some lethal moves. Like there's like
the first scene is him shooting the informant, right, just to like save himself.
Yes, he shoots the informant, and then there's this scene where like he needs like Jyn Erso because she's like the MacGuffin for some reason, and like a rebel from that planet is like throwing a bomb, and he's like, that's gonna hit and kill her, and then we're not gonna have a chance of getting the Death Star plans. So he shoots the guy with the bomb, like just absolutely unflinchingly ready to kill like someone like on their side or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like interesting characterization. Rogue One, still not the best movie, but I think that,
it's
like,
a lot of interesting ideas, but it only has 2 hours to explore them as opposed to 2 seasons.
I think it made me appreciate more like kind of what it's going for, and it's like this movie had zero time to characterize anyone or make me care about anyone, and I ended not caring about anyone. But like, it's like it made me be like, oh, I can kind of see what they're going for with Andor, and like this series just goes for it. And it's like, oh right, like I see like what this guy is like.
I want them to remake Rogue One now, but with like the Andor pacing, like yeah.
A little bit better writing. Yeah, no, I mean it's interesting for sure, but I think that yeah, like he's cool enough, you know. He's carries the series well. I think he's like who he needs to be to get the job done.
Sure. But he's got there's some emotions to it too. I mean, like I think, what did you think about the final scene? Like the little stinger of like, and he had a kid he never knew about, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, so this is some controversy because I love all women. Now, Bix, what is really her...
What's her deal?
And I love her, but what?
What?
What do I like? I like a lot of the scenes she has. Season 1, I definitely felt like, okay, what are they really doing with her? And there's just this like kind of weird thing that I had where it's like, okay, he has to have a love interest, I guess. Like, and there's also I think there are two things that were like off-putting about it, where it's like, okay, like I guess we have to have this love interest in a series that doesn't feel like it needs one, and also she's introduced as like, whoa, she's like this cool mechanic or whatever, and she comes out, she takes off her goggles, and she's just the most beautiful, like made up, like just
that's just Star Wars though, right? Like, I mean, let's be honest here.
But like, yeah, I guess.
I get you.
But this is trying to be the real show, you know what I mean? But yeah, like I was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, like season 2, I think that there are like a lot of good scenes between them. like they have like interest. Like I like them in the storehouse.
I like them at the secret base on Coruscant. Like that is my favorite bits of them because I like her just completely falling apart.
Yeah.
Because it gives you this idea of like what does it cost you to be a rebel? It's like, well, if you're really gonna commit to it, it's gonna cost you everything. Like Andor's decisions in the first season ripple out in a way that basically ruins the lives of anyone he interacts with. His planet's destroyed or like taken or occupied by Imperials. Will's father is killed just for being tangentially related. Bix is captured and tortured. His one mechanic friend is like almost killed in the riot. And then
Tim with two M's.
Tim with two M's. I don't know who that is. Oh yeah, I do know who that is. Bix's old boyfriend.
Main character.
And so I like that Bix carries that trauma with her throughout the first half of season 2, where it's like those wounds don't heal because you make like the great escape. Like you're still going through this PTSD or whatever. But then they kind of drop that. And then it becomes more about like her picking up on the idea that he's destined for like something more important and then removing herself from the situation so that he can focus on being the rebellion. It twins with Vel and Cinta's story. Yes, I finally got it. Where it's like they have a line in the first season where something along the lines of like, we'll do the work and then we'll enjoy whatever we have after. Like if there's time, we'll, get to have like make cute and be in a relationship and have a good time. But the work comes first. Bix makes that choice on Andor's behalf because as he's like teetering on the edge of being like, let me just like run away again. Like, let's go find a corner of the world that's not having to do with all this. And if he makes that choice, Rogue One doesn't happen the way it happens and all is lost, right? So there's the best part about the Andor story to me, about Andor the character's story, is how they play with that audience knowledge of like everything just carries a little bit more weight because you know how important he's going to be later on. But yeah, it's not my favorite part of the show is the Bix and Andor stuff. Unfortunately, the rest of it's just so good.
Yeah, definitely. It's like it feels like there's a sense of obligatoriness to it in a series that like really shouldn't feel obligated to like have that kind of story play out, like that Andor has to have a love interest and a child
and a secret child.
Yeah, and it's because Star Wars loves their secret children,
I like it in the sense that there's a little bit of tragedy. It adds a little bit more tragedy to Andor's death because, like, we know the entire show that this guy's destined to die, but it's like, yeah, but what if he also never met his kid? Isn't that sad? And it's like, yeah, it's pretty sad.
And I guess it does. I guess that's also sad.
I felt more sad about him leaving his dementia robot behind and seeing him for a second in that last scene. I love B.
That was funny. I was glad that I was worried that she was going to die, and then that was going to be the reason why he decided to double down on being a rebel. So I'm kind of glad
Mr.
they
Jaded
didn't go in
man
that direction.
in Rogue One.
Yeah. And I think that like it is interesting. There is an interesting way that I feel like her and his arcs kind of dovetail, where they start where she is like being a like kind of rebel informant basically and like communicating with Luthen. She's like the reason why he gets connected to Luthen in the first place.
Right.
And he is a like in it for himself, I don't care, disaffected kind of guy. And it's interesting that like viewing it through the lens of like his arc is to like care about something bigger than himself and commit himself to the cause. Like her arc is kind of like a dovetail into like you had like a weird screaming headphones thing that like traumatizes you and makes you have nightmares forever, and like you're maybe not fit for this fight or don't have a lot that you can contribute to it, and like you matter and should have a place in the world, I guess, is like kind of her arc. And I feel like the scene, like, I feel like why she does kind of like turn around, it's not, maybe it's like super subtle and it's like too deep for us, or maybe it's just not the best delivered, but like I do feel like it makes sense that the turning point happens where it doesn't, where she like finds the like creepy little doctor guy and puts the headphones on his head and then blows off his building, and it's like, and they're just walking away like, yeah, like I
But
feel
then
like
past that point, she doesn't really do anything else, it seems like. But I think that like you could make the argument. Go ahead. I cut you off.
I'll make my argument, and then maybe it'll be the same argument. But I guess I would make the argument that she, like, her decision to do that, because that's not a decision that's necessarily like helping the rebellion or doing anything for the greater good. But it is like helping her, I guess, and it's kind of like, I guess, placing herself in like a set, like what you care about matters, like setting herself up as like more important, that I guess kind of like sets her up to like perhaps like value herself a little bit more. I don't know if that's like fully a good argument, because I don't know.
No, I like that idea,
because
that's her interplay with Luthen, right? Like,
yeah, self-sacrificial.
Andor's like, you have to give us this mission. We have to work together. You have to let Bix and I work together, because she's crashing out and is on drugs and is like heading down a dark path. And like, I think you could make the reading that like what she adds to the show in the back half of season 2 is like what comes after. There are a lot of conversations about, we could make this a home. Like, they decorate the stash house for a while when they're living together and they're eating weird space melons. And then by the time you see it again in the Mon Mothma rescue episode, like, it's all barren again. But there's this idea of like, we have to be fighting for something. We have to be fighting for like a home life that could one day exist. Like, their cabin on Yavin is so dreamlike and like welcoming, and it actually feels like a home. It feels peaceful. And so I think you can maybe make the argument that like she represents what we're fighting for, and like what victory would look like, which is like when all the fighting's done, you can finally like live on a wheat farm and have a baby and play with your amnesiac or not amnesiac, play with your dementia robot who I love.
Yeah, which I
and
feel
like that
Clea
farm planet's so
kind of,
peaceful and great and like, yeah, idyllic.
Yeah. Clea kind of does a similar thing, which I feel like is I personally like a lot better. I think her character is just like developed in a lot cooler ways, but like she kind of is like, she puts in all this effort to like, you know, finish off Luthen and like that episode, and like you know, make sure he's dead, which is what he wanted, and like gets out, and like there is just this like feeling of like after she escapes, like of like crashing out, and like you know, she's having the whole
we've said crashing out a lot, but it's true. There's a lot of crashing out. I mean,
it's all people are doing. It's like she's having this whole argument with Andor of like, you have the information, you don't need me, like let me die here, the same way Luthen did. And he's like, that's stupid, which makes it more unrealistic when he lets Saw Gerrera die on in
Jeddah,
Rogue One, because
right?
it's the exact same scene. But yeah, like he's like, no, that's stupid. Like, you need to come with us and like you know, like live and stuff. And then she like gets there and she gets to the planet, and then there's like and we're on lesbians. There's the part where she goes to live with
Vel.
Oh no, Vel. Yeah, and like Vel is kind of like, you know, giving her, I wish I could remember like what they said, but like
there's the implication
her,
of like
comfort her.
You can have a home here, even though you're
an
outcast among the outcasts, or among the rebellion, right? Like you're one of Luthen's lieutenants, and no one gives a shit about Luthen anymore. I do like that Vel toasts to Luthen and has an interaction with Andor, and I think that's really sweet.
Yeah.
I called him Forrest Gump earlier, and what I meant by that is essentially like he keeps finding himself at the periphery of all these major events, and I do like by the time you get to this toast, it's like To the Gorm. Oh yeah, the Gorm. They got fucked up. To the Donnie. Oh, I forgot about the Donnie. Man, Donnie. That went south. The Donnie. Ooh, that was tough. Ferrex.
And they're actually
Ferrex.
referencing
Gotta,
stuff.
of course, Ferrex.
It
But we've
makes
seen
it,
all of it. Like, there's so much history there. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh man.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like what they wanted with Anakin and Obi-Wan, where they're like, remember that nest of Goomblas when they're in the elevator.
Or in A New Hope, it's like many Bothans died for these plans. It's like now we know the Bothans' names, and it's like, oh man, those Bothans, that was tough.
God.
Like it's just it's filling in gaps I didn't know I wanted filled in, and it's fucking great. Andor is incredible in my
Yeah.
mind, but it's not up to me how incredible it is. It's up to Mallory. So take us home. Season 2 better than season 1, ranked higher, ranked lower.
Season 2 is better than season 1. I'm not good at this whole ranking thing because my deluxe category is very, very long. And my and the top category, which is only has one thing in it, which is Porco Rosso. And there's just stuff in the deluxe I feel like has to move down to make the deluxe more of a distinguished thing. Because
Do it.
this is deluxe.
Put
This is
in
deluxe
put
to
in
me.
sale. No.
No, this is because I feel like it's like, okay, talk me up, convince me. What's
Mallory, I don't have to convince you at all. We talked about a Mon Mothma. We talked about a wedding, a Star Wars wedding, for the first 40 minutes of this podcast.
okay? I'll be honest. I
made
think
you
Andor
cry.
season 1 should be lower because I think that. Okay, and here's the thing. This is what they don't want me to say, but I'm gonna say it because you cannot silence me, and the truth speaks louder than words, and that is that it's kind of boring a little bit at parts because there's just not a it just doesn't I'm watching it and I'm nodding intellectually and being like, oh yeah, well that's cool, but I'm not feeling the emotions as much. And by the time we hit season 2 and we hit Mon Mothma, oh, I'm in it, baby. Oh,
And
I'm all
Saul.
the way in it. Oh, I'm 100% in it. And Saw. Oh my God. Oh, and this little teenage boy, he lost his dad and now he has to line up the lines on the little green beepy thing. And you're like,
Dude,
oh,
come
I'm there,
huff
I'm
this
there, I'm there.
lockpick juice with me, and let's fucking fuck up some Imperials, man. It's so good.
Yeah, and it's there are really high highs. There are parts where it is just so dry, and I'm like, wow, this is just, there you go.
Like a beautiful
But
desert.
I think season 2 is a lot better than season 1. To me, I think that I understand now. I feel like as a complete package, it definitely makes sense why they did things the way that they did in season 1. It's not to be so down on season 1. I'm just they built these characters up in a way to pay them off in season 2. So of course I'm going to enjoy season 2 more. But yeah, I don't want to be oh man, this is perfect, because they do the thing where they kill the lesbian as soon as they kiss, and it's okay, well, come on now. And maybe they're gonna and Cassian and Vix are kind of boring. So it's it's not Porco Rosso, because compare this to Porco Rosso. He goes ha ha ha, and he
eats the
flies
spaghetti.
away. Yeah, he eats a spaghetti, and yeah. Mon Mothma is a diva of all time, and I love her. And that's my conclusion on
Deluxe it is.
Andor. Deluxe it is.
I
feel
see.
like that should be more what I'm defining of deluxe. But yeah, some stuff has got to get out of deluxe to make the deluxe things more deluxe. They got to shine.
End
a
of the
little bit
year,
higher.
we're reorganizing our tiers. I put what happens
Yes.
next in C. That is a travesty. I cannot believe I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you'd be giving me a lot more heaters, to be honest. So I was like, let me make C like like a really good floor. But then 20 episodes later, I have thoughts.
Speaking of which,
it's
time for some more heaters.
I wish you were drunk.
Let's hear it, Mallory. What are you putting me through this week? And if you say a riddle, I'm quitting the show.
Do I get 0 more riddles? Is that the threshold?
You get 1 riddle every 2 years.
1 riddle every 2 years?
Not
I was
even
gonna
every
do a riddle a
one.
year.
No.
I felt like a riddle a year is a reasonable pace.
It's too many.
What if it was the same riddle every year?
That'd be even worse. 5 Pirates Riddle Season 2? I don't think so.
Part 2. We gotta figure out what's going on with these pirates. No. Okay. So I obviously everyone knows it is Deltarune time. I thought that we would have more time before chapters 3 and 4 came out, so I was trying to pace it out. We did Undertale as our first
second episode ever
that I
right?
pitched. Yeah. My first pitch was Undertale because I knew I wanted to get through Deltarune. So unfortunately we can't do chapter by chapter. We are going to do 1 and 2. That said, 1 is pretty short. So I am so excited. Deltarune is one of my favorite things. It's maybe not as if we're talking about Andor being a very well balanced flavors. There's umami, it's very you have your wine pairing, it's just very it's a little bit more candy corn maybe. I love a bitch loves candy corn.
Mallory coded things that we're going to cover, and there's Sam coded things we're going to cover.
Yeah.
When we do 6
Deltarune
episodes on Better Call Saul, you'll know which is which.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I think that I wanted to play Undertale to get to Deltarune because I love Deltarune. It's just such a what I like is the thing I was talking about earlier. Characters that embody ideals bumping into each other. You're like, give me more. I love this.
Well, I'm looking forward to experiencing it. So we're doing chapters 1 and 2 for next week.
Yes. And chapters 3 and 4 will release, I think, the day before or after that episode comes out. But
and you're gonna make me
I'm sure we'll cover them.
I'm gonna be sitting there wanting to play Mario Kart on my Switch 2 that I waited until 6 a.m. for, and you're gonna be like, no, chapters 3 and 4 now.
Deltarune. Yeah, we're gonna be discussing Gaster theories in depth.
Can't wait. Don't know who that is.
Awesome.
We'll see you next week.
Have a great day, Sam.
Have a good evening, Mallory.